Hello, this is Dave, and welcome to Equity Story. I'm with the Wolf, and obviously just general share advice and not personal advice, as per the disclaimer. Uh, Wolf looking pretty in pink as normal. Um, Wolf,
Yes.
just having a look today, because I had a chat with one of our members yesterday, and he said, Dave, come on, I'd like to have more dividend stocks. So we've got some great dividend stocks and some great dividend plays, and we've actually come up. You can see them all here. There's a whole group of stocks. I think they're averaging about sort of 10% gross dividends, which is really, really interesting. And but what we're going to do, we're just going to, we've got a lot of stories there. Obviously, BHP we know, but things like IZJ and DSK and FWD. We're just going to spend the day going through the fundamentals with them and making sure we're happy with the story. But tomorrow we hope to deliver a very interesting sort of portfolio that could be averaging gross around that sort of 9 to 10%. So it could be a little bit of fun tomorrow, Wolf, and I'll be interested to see how these dividend stocks they pan out once we go through them more through the fundamentals today.
Saying that, we've already mentioned many dividend stocks previously that we follow. We've got a little dividend I think list that we produced late last year. So refer back to that. But we're going to come up with something a little bit new tomorrow, where we're going to delve in some new stocks that we haven't probably actually looked at before, Dave. So it'd be an interesting exercise for us, and see if we can find some stuff for you guys to play with.
Wolf, let's just talk about some of the stocks today. DTL, it's had a nice little move up from 12%. What did you make of the announcement, and do you think fundamentally this could retest those highs of $7?
The risks are, I think, to the upside than to the downside, Dave. Remember, the two most probably powerful things on the markets, doesn't matter what you're trading at, and that is good revenue growth and upgrades to your bottom line, right? Or revenues. So in this case, this is what's happening with DTL. So the momentum is definitely to the upside. So I'm happy to have a look at this as a possible trade. And we've seen some even expensive stocks. As long as they come up with an upgrade, investors will pile in for a period of time. So I'm happy to say yes. I think this is a decent story. We know, I mean, we've seen it. It's been probably going sideways for a little while, but is this a time for the next leg up? Potentially.
Right. So what we're going to do, we're going to put this on as traders. Buy under $6.55, target $7, and a stop loss around 6.23. So maybe target 6.90, but it's a nice little 5%, Wolf. And you never know, if it gets there quickly, there is a chance to lift that stop loss.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about Whispir, Wolf. We do like this story, and I think it could run higher. We put on a trade last week. It's up 16%. So, if someone's up 16% in this market, I get it, take it. Or lift
of course you take it.
or lift your stop loss, Wolf. So at least you're making 9%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we like it. It was on Einstein's. I think they could have a good announcement. It was a hot stock, and I think we feel it's got longer to go. But either lift your stop or take a profit. But we'll knock that one out on the website as a 16% profit.
We'll close it off. We'll take our money off the table. This is good.
Wolf, JB Hi-Fi. What do you make of that? So this is an interesting dividend play. It pays a pretty nice dividend. I think around that sort of.
Grossed up about 8 something, right?
Grossed up around 8%, yeah. Slightly lower than last year with revenue, but the market was happy with it.
Yeah, because I think the market was expecting some disaster on the books, and it definitely didn't come up with a disaster. Still decent numbers coming through, even though it's lower, because remember, the pandemic has really thrown some of these retailers off. They had a really strong period and they had a really poor period. So it's fluctuating for them significantly. It's quite messy. When you look at the actual numbers, quite messy. But generally speaking, the markets were expecting much worse. They come up with something okayish. So I think the dividend story, if you're still in it for the dividends here, I think you're probably still going, well, I'm going to still hold it.
Right. Next on the list, Rio came out with their numbers today. Were you impressed with Rio or?
Well, the Rio numbers, actually, if you look at the quarter on quarter, was improved, but the previous year was lower, right? However, if you forget about that and you forget about the history, you look at forward and pretty much all the numbers from your iron ore to copper to everything else, they should be higher. That's what the guidance shows us from Rio for next year. So as long as you've got a positive outlook on the commodity prices, you'd expect a better performance from Rio in 2022. Hence, I think if you're on this, you'd be holding it. And a good dividend to do.
Wolf, ALD, which has been charting reasonably nicely, it still looks a little bit sideways, and it did. I think it had a really nice sort of buy signal a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone through it nicely. Do you feel this is going to go retest those highs, Wolf, around 32 or?
It should. It should. On the numbers today, they're talking about really strong numbers, margins increasing. It's the environment for them to do very, very well at the moment. So I'd be definitely on this. If you're in it, you hold it.
All right. Wolf, QPM. Again, we had this on Einstein's. It's had a lovely little move up. They've got a little pilot plant, haven't they?
To be honest, I don't know much about the story, Dave. So we've been trading it, I know. But from fundamental point of view, very weak for me. So I pass on this one. I can't comment really too much.
Yeah, sort of. I think from New Caledonian or manufacturing HPA, but again, just a pilot plant, high risk, and most probably a little bit of FOMO in this little move up today we had earlier. So maybe if you are trending or trading that one, obviously look to take a profit. S32 Wolf. So we're singing the praises of this stock the other day, and so far again it's up 2.5% today.
Very interesting article, Dave. I mean, this is what we want to talk about it today in Stockhead, talking about silver. The poor cousin of gold. However, is it going to be poor cousin no more? That's what the question is probably put out there, because the article suggests that silver is going to have a really strong move and possible stars are aligning for silver where there's not enough supply due to the fact that there's a really strong demand on the back of the solar energy sector. So silver is used a lot in the solar paneling. Now, the article suggests that pretty much to meet the demands for silver over the next, I think they're talking about next 20 years, Dave, right?
Yeah.
You need at least 2 Canningtons. And Cannington is one of the biggest silver mines globally a year, right, being built. So they think that any silver players, you might see, I don't know. I mean, this is just don't know what the timing will be. But if you're looking at silver, if you're looking at a potential space that hasn't actually taken off yet, S32 is definitely one of the players because they produce silver with Cannington because they own Cannington. But they also suggest in that article, look at SVL, which is another little player in a space. However, we obviously just need to see it trade a little bit better. So just an interesting food for thought on silver, and we're probably going to be watching a little bit more closely from now on.
Yeah, I think the article fascinating, Wolf, but a little bit maybe, would you say, ahead of the curve at the moment?
Possibly. I mean, sometimes you've got, because remember these big miners, right? They look ahead 10, 20 years time to see what sort of trends are going. They're seeing, if you're looking at the EV space, I'm sure that the companies out there will be looking, what's in the EV space? What sort of metals are used in there? So they're looking at solar and saying, silver is used a lot. We're seeing more demand coming through. They'll do their obviously modeling and seeing, silver could have a good, strong period. So that's maybe the space to have a look at. It might not happen overnight, but maybe in the next 12, 24 months, you might see a silver spike.
It's an interesting hedge because I know it's sort of poor man's gold, but it is a hedge if the markets do badly. But obviously, with the demand for silver, maybe it's you're playing both ways really with it. So it's looking it's interesting, definitely. And I'm going to watch silver really carefully, Wolf. I think we get over that 24, 25, start to trend a little bit. Maybe there's some money to be made in these stocks.
Yeah, but what another feather in the cap for S32?
I know, silver. I mean, what hasn't it got that's going to be a good story? REE. So not getting particularly. The chart looked a little bit better earlier, Wolf. I think we've got to wait to the end of the week with this one, but they again fairly strong announcement.
Look, I think the reason why we just want to mention it today is that is in that rare space, and we've seen Linus as our complete favourite do extremely well, and we like the rare earth space, right? Where we think again in the next 10 years, maybe even longer, you're going to have a really strong demand for the rare earths. So what else is out there? I mean, that's what we've been trawling through a lot of these things, looking at some announcements going through. So while we've got LYC, we haven't really found a secondary type little small player then we thought that looks good, apart from maybe from that spin-off from I think ASM is called, right? The spin-off from Alkane. So this one sort of, this morning I had a look through. It doesn't look too bad. I mean, the results are decent. It's got a nice little projects on its books as well. So definitely one to keep on your watch list. And I think, Dave, maybe if it does break through that 12 cents, that's when you start looking at it.
Yeah, it just needs to a little bit more, doesn't it? The old Orocoba, AKE, and Galaxy.
Yep.
Wolf, were you sort of pleased with the announcement and give you enough faith that this trend can keep running higher?
I tell you what, if you look at the numbers, Dave, obviously you got to say, okay, these are pretty good, but it's all about the price increases for lithium. It's gone crazy. So they could have come up with probably the worst production update ever, and they'll still probably do very, very well because of their incredible price increases in lithium. It's just crazy how that's why, you got to love producers in a really strong market, because it sort of hides sometimes the fact that you're not going to get a perfect production update every quarter from some of these producers. But it's just the strength of the prices of lithium that is just driving all this along. So yeah, look, I don't mind the numbers. Probably Mount Catlin wasn't my favorite part of that when you look through. So I think it's more for me, more about Argentina stuff, which is going quite well.
Yeah, as long as the Argentina behaves itself, it's the only issue, isn't it?
Oh, you've got risks, of course. We know that.
All right, Wolf, listen, absolutely fantastic. We've got a little trade on. I think we better get on quickly because DTL is creeping higher and higher as we're talking.
Yep.
Fairly quiet still at the moment, but things are starting to heat up and it's starting to get a little bit hotter at the moment. I think next 2 weeks, Wolf, we should be getting a lot of announcements out.
Yep, absolutely, we will.
On that note, thank you very much, Wolfie.
Don't forget tonight we've got our Ask the Analyst, so please join us at 6 p.m. Brisbane time or 7 p.m. Sydney and Melbourne time.
And tomorrow it's all about dividends. So we're going to be giving some really excellent dividend plays. So I really look forward to that. And me and Wolfie are going to be hard at it all day today, coming up with possibly 2 lists or one big list. We'll decide.
Oh, you can do that. I'm going to go to sleep.
As always. All right. Thanks, Wolfie. See you, mate.
Right. Cheers.
Bye.